Good morning, and great morning to you guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategy Radio Show. Hey, I am your host. Yep, that is me, Corwin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. So, guys, if this is your first time listening to this show, maybe you're passing through on 95 or going out on 26, or maybe you're on 17 trying to get close to the coast so you can get the most. Guys, I appreciate you guys catching us on this station today. I appreciate you listening. And most importantly, I am hopeful and prayerful that you will get a lot out of this exercise on today. Our mission here at this show is very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. Guys, we're legacy building. That is what we do. So I'm super excited, first and foremost, for you to listen from the coast, quote unquote, all the way at the Monkey's Corner. From those of you who listen from around the world, look, I'm so humble always to know that the audience is out there tuning in and getting use out of this show. But today, look here, I'm giving you time right now. Go get your pen and paper. You might want to just turn on the tape recorder. Better yet, mark this episode so you can go find it and listen and put it on repeat, because we got a show for you today. This show is for everybody, but if you are in the medical profession, if you are a doctor, nurse, otherwise somewhere moving and maneuvering around that hospital, I need y'all to listen closely today, because we have with us none other than Ryan Smolarz. He is the founder of STORE. Now, he's a fellow podcaster, has his own show. He's the host of the Medicine and Money Show. Look here, who knew those two things went together unless it was in the wrong way? But he's telling you how to make some money. I love it. I love it. His podcast focuses on helping doctors and others in the healthcare profession to navigate the world of investing. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. How you doing, my man?
I am doing so good. It's unbelievable. And that was some introduction, and I very much appreciate it. And I am so happy to be here. This is going to be awesome.
So look, just so you know, I do travel, and for a small fee, I'll introduce you on any stage.
I love it.
So Ryan, tell our listeners who you are, what you do.
Well, I'm a man of a few hats. During the day, I'm still a full-time surgeon, ear, nose, and throat. I'm an otolaryngologist. We treat people, take care of their booger needs from A to Z. We do a lot of allergy, a lot of tonsils, and a lot of surgery for this and that. But over the course of probably since 2017, I've turned a corner in my life where I was in a place. Let me tell you just a little background story. In 2016, I woke up one day and I realized that I didn't know even how to get into my bank account. Like, I didn't even know really where our bank account was. I knew that my brother-in-law took care of all that, my wife, and all the CPA meetings. They were just like, okay, you go and sit in the corner and you keep taking care of all the boogers and we'll take care of this. That's how it worked. And I woke up one day and I said, I don't know when I'm going to be able to retire. I don't know if I have enough money to take a vacation. I don't know any of these things. So I went to my wife and I said, hey, listen, I need the bank account password and the address of like where to find it. And she said, is something wrong? I said, no, there's nothing wrong. I think it's just time for me to get a grasp here of what our situation is, because I had no idea. And all things in my life, I take them to the extreme a little bit, like some of us do. And the next month I was in Masters of Business Administration School, the MBA program in Miami. So I went through that and I remember sitting there. Well, the first day it was very clear. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, man. This is intimidating. Like, there were CEOs sitting behind me of these big corporations. This is like, an international, like, big to-do program. And I didn't know anything. About day 4, I realized, I remember the time and date that I was looking at it. at the screen, and this professor was giving this really cool speech. And I said, you know what? This is what I've been missing in my life. I said, I have been a consumer my entire life. All those marketing and commercials and stuff, they're looking at me, right? They're trying to talk to me. And the people on the other side, they're trying to figure out problems on how to make money to solve people's problems. And my headspace was filled with, if I see a couple more patients, then I can get whatever this thing is. And it's different for everybody, a watch, a car, a boat, whatever that thing is. That day, my headspace changed to, how can I solve a problem that a lot of people have and move into that entrepreneur mindset and being an investor? And I can't tell you how sort of life-changing that was. It took a while to move everything and transition my life over to that headspace. Man, but once I did, it was so powerful. We talk about all the F's in our life, the fitness, the fun, all of those sorts of things, especially in the doctor world, we tend to leave out the financial health part. And it's my sort of belief, regardless of how much your W-2 brings you, that if your expenses are too high and you're still living month to month on a paycheck and something catastrophic happens and you don't have the means to meet those requirements, that's going to weigh on you, whether it's conscious or subconscious. And to be able to get a grasp of that and to have, even to make, our tagline is make work optional in our investing purposes. And I think it's wholeheartedly, I believe that can help you. It's not going to be the only thing. Your relationships and all those things have to be in order. But that is a big piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people miss.
So you have a focus on, and thank you for sharing that, Ryan, because I'm going to interject this. And I have this thing that I say when I'm talking to real estate agents, because, and this is true across the board, no matter what your profession is, well, at least most people in most professions, let me say it that way. Whatever it is that you're doing, you plan to do until you die. And you don't think about, well, what about the time between I don't want to do this anymore, I'm too tired to do this anymore, and you die? That gap right there is what you were concerned about. That's what caused you to act and do something different when you got that ultimate concern about the gap. So that is profound. Now you're helping other people with their gap. I love it. I
Absolutely.
love it. So tell our listener, tell us, what is it that you focus on? Like, what is your direction in investing? What do you focus on?
Yeah, so I have some speculative investments in my life, but my focus is good returns as a hedge for some of these other things that I do in my life. At its core, we looked for or I, at the time, it was just me looking for a very stable asset class. Interesting. I'll provide a little color here. I was listening to a podcast. I was halfway through my MBA program, and the guy can't, and there was a gentleman on the podcast. He said, listen, we all live really complicated lives, and you can tell how complicated your life is by the amount of keys that you have. And I looked down, and my front seat, you couldn't see the seat. It was all keys. So I knew that my life was super duper complicated. And for me to enter into an asset class that was complicated is not what I wanted to do. And so I started thinking it had to be divine intervention, because the next podcast that I listened to was in storage. And the guy goes, listen, this is commercial real estate and there's a lot to it, but let's look at it from the 30,000 foot view. It's a concrete slab in a metal box that people put pink flamingos in. All right. So let's say what it is. And so that resonated with me so much. I mean, I knew it was going to be complicated and I knew that there were going to be hurdles, but at the same time, why pick the lowest hanging fruit, right? And so I didn't know it at the time, but during recessions and disasters, we don't think we're in storage. We're in the death, destruction, and economic disaster business, because that's when people need storage, right? When bad things happen in their life. And so when a recession happens, people need storage. So it's actually a very good hedge, especially if you're in the markets on Wall Street and buying stocks and bonds and that sort of thing. When that goes down a lot, we're still up there hanging on and people are still wanting to put their stuff somewhere. So I went through that path and each time I was checking boxes. And so at the end of that, I said, you know what? This is where my focus needs to be. And so we started buying facilities and trying to learn how the business. And as you do, you go find the best people in the world to coach you. That's what I did. And when we came to the end of the trial run, we kept buying facilities and they kept turning out pretty good. And we said, you know what? We need to spread this message and start moving this thing forward and scaling it to the point where we can bring other people in to see how awesome this asset class is, this type of investing, how we're moving toward financial freedom and taking really ownership of that part of our life.
So, Ryan, you focus again working with medical professionals, so other doctors like yourself. They might I almost fell out my chair when you said boogers, man. Look here, I'm thinking about all this pollen and stuff, Ryan. But you focus on other doctors and other medical professionals. So give me this, because I mean, we know the real estate investing. I mean, while it should be about cash flow, there's other benefits, tax savings, all those kind of things that can be achieved by owning investment property. So, is that a strategy that you also leverage with the clients or the folks that you work with?
Absolutely. So our client base in its core is super conservative, don't like risk, have a very low risk tolerance just off the
Hmm.
bat. And so when
Hmm.
we talk about these things, especially for people who aren't familiar with investing as much, we go through this process and we talk to them about depreciation and how if you're a passive investor on the limited partner side, as in you're providing the capital and somebody else is dealing with the day to day, that to use that depreciation, you have to have some passive income. And most of the people that we talk with, they say, you know what, I'm a W 2 employee of a hospital or a W 2 of their own practice where they have an S Corp structure. I don't have any passive income.
Hmm.
And I say, listen, at the end of this deal, the depreciation does not go away. You're going to have capital gains on the amount of capital that you're given on top of what you provided to us to help buy this facility. You are going to get rewarded for that depreciation, the losses on your K1, which is just a piece of paper that you get from your CPA to file with the IRS. And I said, the beauty of it, the absolute beauty of it is, yeah, you have to do that the first time, but then the next time you get to write off on the previous deal, right? And then you do a third one, and now you're writing off on the second and the first. And so,
Hmm.
yes, is there a little bit of a hurdle and a little bit of an outlook type of scenario that you should have? Absolutely. Is everybody's tax situation different? Absolutely. But you need a good CPA, you need a good tax attorney, so run it by them. Have us
Hmm.
talk with them to see where our head is and trying to provide you with what we call this making money while you sleep kind of thing. Because everybody at some point in their life, if their income goes up, their expenses go up, right? It's
Hmm.
just sort of a law of nature. To be able
Hmm.
to expedite that gap or decrease or increase the gap time, in my mind, the only way to do that is with some sort of investing, whether you're starting your own business where you can leverage that and have an outlook to buy other businesses or start other businesses, or some way to do what's called inventory, where your services are put on a shelf and you don't have to be there. They can be distributed while you're not
Hmm.
there. As a
Hmm.
doctor, there is no inventory. You go room, you get paid. You go room, you get paid. You don't go to the room, there ain't no
You
pay.
don't get paid. So, Ryan, I could literally think of, and I know it to be true in our industry, that prime example yesterday, or a few, matter of fact, I've heard this sister repeatedly by someone in my arena, in my circle, my sphere, that less than 2% of real estate agents, even though we sell, move the product, so to speak, less than 2% of us invest in real estate. So I can imagine, but if you even know a statistic, how many medical professionals invest in real estate? I mean,
Oh
do you
man,
know?
it's a very small amount. It is so small. What I tend to see is people who have grasped this concept early in their career, they are closet real estate moguls, right?
Gotcha.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and for whatever reason, they don't advertise it. But every once in a while, you'll sit down and start talking, and you'll talking about debt and equity and all these kind of complicated things, and they match you and start teaching you. And that's an awesome situation to be in, but it is certainly not the norm. And it is, for some people, it is so hard to grasp that I have to take risk, put the capital out in the hopes that it's going to come back to me with more, right? That concept is just so scary to a person that has a very low risk tolerance. And even in the lowest risk categories, and to me, you're almost there. You got the capital, you have the job to support dollar cost averaging into different investments. It's a mindset thing. Just
Mm-hmm.
open your mind, start small, get with people you trust. Listen, it's never going to be easy. I would imagine that you would tell me the same thing. There's going to be bumps in the road, things are going to go sideways. There's no doubt. I'm not selling you the bridge or whatever. It's going to be hard. Things are going to be difficult. But at the same time, you went to medical school. You learned the concepts at some level
Mm-hmm.
because you passed.
Mm-hmm.
You went to residency and you stayed up late at night taking care of people. You understand that things are not always handed to you on a silver platter. I mean, that concept
Mm-hmm.
is easy for them to grasp. But once you do it, you get a little taste of it, and then maybe you have a deal go sideways or something like that, and it's tough. You just got to keep going, man. Keep going.
One of the things, that I have as a takeaway thus far in the conversation is one that's fairly consistent. You got to start somewhere. You got to quote unquote get in the game. People want to be a winner, but then they don't want to get in the game. How does that imagine that? But it's interesting that we're even having this conversation again, because people are so used to, obviously, I mean, doctors, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not one, even though my nickname was Dr. Socks. I'm not one. There is a lot of money paid to doctors, specialists, and such. And that becomes the crutch because you get accustomed to that. But what happens when you leverage? Because then you're always bound to. If you think back, matter of fact, I don't know if you're an Avengers fan, but you think back to Doctor Strange making tons of money, has a
Yep.
car accident, and now he can't use his hands
Yep.
effectively without them shaking. So his revenue, boom, immediately went from this to this.
Yep.
And what happened? Now, granted, I don't know. Maybe in Avengers, maybe he has some real estate. I have no idea. But 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 the storyline that we saw that breakdown and that change. So this is a way and a means for people, if you will, in the healthcare profession to avoid. So let me ask you this one. How often do you engage in, and I'm gonna come around, I want to make sure we get your contact information, website where people can sign up to get more information or otherwise schedule a conference or call with you. But how often do you crowd fund a deal? Meaning how often do you pull your investors together and say, hey, maybe you don't have the wherewithal, or maybe you don't want to have the risk alone. We'll put two or three of you together to have the same appetite, but the same risk tolerance, a risk meter, riskometer.
Yeah.
That's a new one. But something along that vein. So how often do you guys do stuff like that?
Yeah. So the way I would approach that, it would depend on how well the people who were trying to do this knew each other. But one way to do that would be to have them start their own LLC as partners, taxes partnership. And then they,
Mm-hmm.
two or three of them, put in enough for the minimum. That's certainly one way to do it. If we had a conversation with an investor that said, hey, listen, I have a very low risk tolerance. I want to get in small. I want to follow the deal and learn with you guys, but the minimum is the problem. I can't imagine that the partners wouldn't come together and be like, okay, this is a one off. We really want this person to build rapport, build trust. We want to get to know them because they have capital and they have the right mindset and they have all the things. They just need a little push. It would be hard for me to believe that I couldn't use a little charisma, as they say, to make that happen.
Okay. Well, that's good. So let's get in the medicine and money podcast. So let's talk about that. Where did the concept come from? And what is the content that you guys seek to deliver to the audience?
Yeah, so it's a lot like this. We're talking about really how to be, it sounds pretty crazy to say, but how to be a good limited partner, how to do that due diligence. I came on the very first podcast and I said, listen, if you're going into a limited partner deal and you don't know the folks, I said, what I would do when I go into a limited partner deal, I'm looking for good sponsors who are going to fight for my capital. They're going to be ethical. They're going to do the right thing, all these sorts of, and it all boils down to relationship. I
Mhm,
want them to respect me enough to do the right thing. I said,
mhm,
what I would do is I would go get a PI and I would do a little research on them because I'm looking for
mhm,
30-year relationship here, 40 years,
mhm,
whatever that life is of that.
mhm,
I said, I wouldn't have any problem with somebody digging in a little bit to make sure that over the course of my lifetime, there hasn't been times where something happened and I didn't do that, didn't do the right thing.
mhm,
So the
mhm,
only thing that I ask is that if you do find something, then please ask me about it and let me at least have the
mhm,
opportunity to talk about it. That trust, I can't tell you how important that is. And it's about trust. It's about education. He who educates the market dominates the market. It's about bringing people in and seeing if they fit with our culture. If this resonates with them, storage may not resonate with them. They might like multifamily. They may like office, but we may need to talk about that if that's the case, unless it's their own office. There's a little bit of nuance there, right? They may like the stock market. They may be okay with the ups and downs, but in the end, the breaking it down, and it also helps us as a team break down to the fundamentals. I love teaching people the fundamentals because I know that if I don't have them grasp myself, that all this other stuff, the nuances of the day to day, it's going to go to pot because
mhm,
that's in pretty much anything. If you're a football player or you're a tennis player, whatever. If you forget about the fundamentals, I mean, Michael Jordan was notorious for just passing the simple pass back and forth at the beginning of the game when he was warming up.
mhm,
And people would
mhm,
say, you're the best basketball player of all time. What are you doing? He said, if I can't do the fundamentals, you think I'm going to be able to
mhm,
jump from half court and dunk the ball and do all
mhm,
this crazy stuff? He said,
mhm.
absolutely not. And so I believe in that wholeheartedly.
So, Ryan, where can our listeners get in contact with you? So, where can they find you, your show, website? Give it all to us.
Yeah. So on our YouTube channel, The Medicine and Money Show, you can start listening to the content, see if it resonates with you. If you want to jump right in and have a call with my team, we are at www.storpartners.com. It's storpartners.com. If it's okay with you, I'd like to send you a telephone address or a number, and people can actually text me. I have lots of threads going with different doctors that are asking me questions
Oh,
and,
that's cool.
at the
Mhm,
same time teaching me stuff and just helping guide them a little bit to the next step, maybe, or to what the things to like. If there's a concept that they're trying to learn about, hey, this is a good resource, or whatever the case may be. But on that website, storepartners.com, there's a link. You just click it, sign up for a Calendly link, and we can have a conversation. We can talk face to face. Those are probably the
awesome.
two ways to get involved.
Awesome. Ryan, we've had a great show, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I call this, sometimes I'll refer to it as a mic drop question, but it's that hindsight question that we all get, which is if I knew way back yonder when what I know now, what would I've done differently back then?
Yeah. I mean, I would have started earlier. I
Okay.
mean, it's time in the markets, right? You're compounding your money. You make some returns and then that gets invested and that gets invested. Instead of 2017, I mean, I was born in 1976. So if I would have started investing in 1990, the whole game would have changed. That's
Hmm.
exactly where it would be. That's why I'm so wholeheartedly when I talk to people, that's my thing. Get started, do something. Don't go and blow your capital on a risky investment or some speculatory thing, but start putting small amounts of capital in the markets. And you're never going to learn as much as when you have that capital on the line, right?
Look here, when they give you heart palpitations, you're gonna pay attention.
That's right. Good thing I'm in the doctor's
I-
office. I can take care of that.
yeah, exactly. It ain't got to be all boogers. It can be. I'm sorry. Look here, that's some good stuff there. So, Ryan, my God, thank you so much.
Absolutely, sir.
Today. Thank you for the insight. And most importantly, thank you for the leveling because sometimes people forget that professionals, doctors, lawyers, I mean, even our legislators, they're real people and
Yep.
they have the same issues and the same challenges that we all do. But the celebration may look different, if that makes any sense. So thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing what you share with us today and being on the show.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. This has been great and awesome. And I hope the conversations continue.
Good deal. I'll look forward to it. So for our listeners, guys, look here, y'all got some word today. Y'all got some good stuff. If you got one of them, hold on, one of them nurse practitioners, if you got one of them RNs, if you got one of them LPNs, if you got a doctor in your family, you got somebody else, anybody else who go into the hospital and work, whoever it is, I need you to put them on to the medicine and money show. I need you to put them on it. I need you to get them plugged in because we got to expand their mind so that we can have a better and different outcome. So again, Ryan, thank you so much again for sharing your insight on our show today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I had chills when you said that. You hit the nail on the head there.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So for our listeners, one more time, y'all know how I do. Y'all know how I feel. Y'all know what I say. Y'all know I always put the two of them things together and I give it to you this way, which is I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.